been watching President Obama deliver a speech on the economy from Kansas. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBS Money Watch, and I'm joined by Jack Otter, the executive editor. Jack, big takeaways from the speech today.
Well, Obama laid out kind of an economic history of the country from 1910 to the present, and then he made some arguments, some examples from history that tried to show that his policies have created good things in the past while his opponents have created bad things. So the narrative is this, and it struck me that it really tracked a book by Robert Reich, Clinton's Secretary of Labor, where he says, starting around the 60s, the middle class was getting squeezed. So step number one was women went into the workforce. So suddenly you've got both people earning. That wasn't enough. So both people started working longer hours. That wasn't enough. So they borrowed against their credit cards, their houses. Boom, we had a bust. And we know how that worked out. So then he says, look, Bush cut taxes. We had middling economic growth. Clinton raised taxes. We had fantastic economic growth. He didn't go so far as to say tax hikes make for better growth or tax cuts worsen growth, but I think he was trying to disconnect people from this idea that the route to growth is necessarily lower taxes. It doesn't always work. And, you know, he made a pretty good argument. Obviously, lots of people won't believe him, won't agree with him, and they're going to accuse him of class warfare. He made the point that CEOs used to earn 30 times the average worker. Now it's at 110 times the average worker, while the average worker, as we know, over the past, say, 10 years, has lost 7% in average salary. So he made these strong arguments. We've heard them before. He's going to get accused of class warfare, but I thought he laid out pretty well what he was trying to say.
In broad brush strokes, but in the details, very few. And I was struck with the fact that really, if you look at the entire speech, basically one or two paragraphs on what has to happen right now.
Right.
So the right now is about this payroll tax cut extension. This does affect 160 working Americans, as the president said. And we're talking about this expiring at the end of this year. So this is really a hot button issue. Now, what's at stake here is that everyone stands to make, on average, an extra $1,000, saving that $1,000 from taxes.
If you make $50,000 a year, you save $1,000.
Exactly. And if you make up to the Social Security wage base, $106,800, it's more, okay? But what's really interesting to me is he didn't make the economic case for that. And there is an economic case that in the short term, when people have that money in their paycheck, they spend it. And I think that was a little bit lost in the whole muddle of the big picture and the big narrative. So I'm really interested in whether we get down to the brass tacks here. And I think that now with 25 days to go, Congress has to act on this. So if they agree that they don't want to impede growth, because some say this would take away 0.5 to 1% of growth next year, how are they going to pay for this?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think that Obama would say we basically don't pay for it now. Anything we do will hurt growth. If we raise taxes, if we cut salaries of government workers, whatever, that's money not going to be pumped into the economy. The Republicans say do one of two things: shrink the government, so basically lay off enough federal workers to pay for this, or cap their wages or stop it from growing at all. I prefer that path to cutting workers, because when you cut workers, suddenly they can't pay mortgages. Forget about the personal side of that. It doesn't help the economy. If you cap wages, you know, frankly, that's been what's been going on in the private economy for some time now. So I see less damage from that. And then, of course, Obama's plan would be to put a tax on the wealthiest.
And Republicans are going to say, you tax the wealthiest, they're the job creators, that's going to be bad for the economy. Is that true?
Well, you know, it's half true. On the one hand, if you are, say, a multimillionaire who makes your money on Wall Street, you get a decent salary, a huge bonus, you probably don't hire a whole lot of people. And you're certainly, if you get that extra $100,000, $200,000, probably what you do is throw it into savings. But if you're a business owner, yeah, you'll probably plow that money back into your company. That could mean hiring people. So I think it cuts both ways. They'll say the same thing about the Social Security, the unemployment tax, that some people, knowing it's temporary, okay, it might be 4.2% next year, but I know it's going to be 6.2% the following year, so I'm going to save that money. That also cuts both ways. If you're in a comfortable economic position with great cash flow, yeah, you might save the money. But if you make $50,000, say a family of four, frankly, you're living more or less paycheck to paycheck. You're going to plow that money right back into the economy.
I think I'm the short term, it does have a stimulative effect, especially in a slow growth economy, to cut those payroll taxes. But long term, the other thing that Obama really emphasized here was this idea that we can't just do short term, we have to do big picture long term. But coming into a political season here, we're starting the 2012 campaign. Nothing's going to get done on the long term, is it?
I don't think so. I mean, gosh, you and I have said this before. We wish they would just adopt something like Simpson Bowles wholesale. Not that we love it, but it would be doing something. Nobody wants to say specifically, here's what we'd cut. I mean, maybe some Republicans are offering some the Department of Energy. I remembered it. And they would say they would slash wholesale departments, but nobody really wants to make the tough choices, which, as we know, Social Security, Medicare, those are the big ticket items. Someday, let's hope that somebody has the political clout to actually make those cuts.
Absolutely. Stay with CBS News for continuing coverage of the economy and campaign 2012. Thanks for watching.